Jim, thanks for sitting down with me.
Pleasure.
So the theme of our annual leadership meeting this year is Revenue the Next Wave. What do you think this means for media companies?
The presentations this year from Dave Moore, a very good friend and a fellow I respect a ton, and Erica Poe, a very good friend and a fellow I respect a ton, were almost 180 degrees different, to your point, right? So Dave gets up and he talks impassionedly about the notion of the need for premium publishers to create paid content. And Eric basically gets up and says just the opposite. And not that either of them are smart or dumb. In fact, they're both very smart people, and they're probably both right. It'll be different strokes for different folks. The notion has always been that time spent online was way greater than advertising dollars spent online as a percentage. And therefore, that advertising dollars were going to continue to increase on the web, and that, in fact, has happened. What's also happened, though, is time spent online has increased. And in fact, the time spent online is increasing by a faster percentage than the revenue spend is. So now the vigorish, the difference between those two numbers is greater now than it was 2 years ago. Which is, by the way, fundamentally a great thing. It's just that we're not closing the gap, we're widening the gap, and so therefore leadership is needed.
You were in traditional media, you've now been in digital media, and you have, I would say you probably can expertly comment on both. So if I'm a marketer and I say to myself, oh, I know I really need to spend more online, but I don't even know where. I'm nervous about cutting my TV. I don't know what to do. What would be your best advice?
And I think it's probably getting easier than it's been. I mean, I know it's getting easier than it's been in the past, simply because the spend levels are going up, as we've already discussed. But fundamentally, the great thing about the web is, well, there's two things that are really, I think, rather interesting about it. One is it's sort of a compendium of everything that's come before, right? So it's print, it's direct response, it's video, it's all these things rolled into one. But with the second thing, which is probably the most important thing, is it's interactive. And so it's almost impossible to continue to make huge mistakes online. You can make it once or twice, but unless you're completely deaf, you will be told immediately by all of your constituencies and all the people who might become your constituencies that you've made a mistake. And as long as you're upfront about that and answer that and respond to it and make adjustments based upon it, you'll be treated well.
The measurement issue that plagues the industry.
Yeah.
How should it be solved?
For a while, I was a big advocate of not going back and using offline metrics, mostly because the vast majority of offline metrics are proxies for things we want to know, not actual things we want to know. Right, like we can now have a two-way conversation with the end user. Let's actually ask them what we really want to know. I'm now adjusting that somewhat. I think we're going to have to go forward. I think we're going to have an online GRP. I think we're going to have to figure out ways to make the offline legacy ways of doing business more in tune with the online ways of doing business. And certainly the overall ecosystem conversation centers on this. And by doing that, we then can take a step forward.
Why should a company join the IAB? Why is the IAB so important?
Well, it's like any trade organization. The ability to enact change as a coalition is much easier and be much more effective than trying to do it haphazardly. That notion is way more true, a factor of 10 or 20 times more true when you have an embryonic, or now, as we said earlier, adolescent industry. So not being a part of the conversation means that you're, well, not part of the conversation. So you'll always be trailing all the industry innovation, and you'll never have a voice in how that innovation takes place, which would be terrible, right? Because we need leadership, we need new thought, we need new ideas. And by being a part of the IAB, you become a part of that conversation.